Like, this is just a hilarious note with the Steelers. Last year, they ranked 30th in terms of dropbacks with motion at the snap with 57. However, hilariously, the last 2 years, they've been in the top 6 in terms of rush attempts with motion at the snap, that is so Matt Canada. Like, hey, if we're motioning, we're running. If we're not motioning, we're passing. They're not really motioning to do anything. They're just kind of moving dudes around. However, they hired Arthur Smith from the Falcons, who was 14th in 2023 in terms of motion at the snap. But all the way back in 22, he was 6th. So I just wonder if, like, Roman Wilson certainly makes sense as a guy you want to motion at the snap, like on crossing routes, I guess. Like, I can't imagine like the quarterbacks are going to maximize this. Maybe it just matters more with the run game, which is, again, what we kind of talked about last week. So I just think if we're talking about teams that could implement this more than they have previously, I do think the Steelers have to be mentioned here.
But at the same time, the timing-based nature of this at the quarterback position, is that Russell Wilson? Is that Justin
timing
Fields?
Base of all these players. I mean, George Pickens, like order of operations. We're going to need you to be a little quicker than we've previously been.
All these offenses that we talk about, it really is, hey, at the snap, landmarks, right? Then once the quarterback's hitting his back foot, landmarks, spaces, cavities, all this stuff, pushing coverages off, creating these areas. Do we trust Russell Wilson to throw it in the timing of that window? Do we trust Justin Fields to throw it in that window? And as you said, in the pass catchers, is George Pickens really moving off of his spot that much? Like, maybe this is just an element that we haven't seen from him but so far, granted, it's in a Matt Canada offense, he has basically lived in this window, right? And then, Roman Wilson, I think, did some of this in Michigan. And it was a lot of, hey, we're going to start you on this side of the formation, run crossing routes to the other side of the formation over and over and over again, middle of the field stuff. Maybe that's it. But I almost think his game is kind of limited to that in a way. And then you have
I agree.
This whole second team wide receiver grouping of Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, and Quez Watkins, who kind of all do the exact same thing on this roster too. So it's a big fat I don't know on this team, and I have no clue how it's going to unfold. What I am most excited for is an Arthur Smith prescribed running game. And this is where his creativity like really shines. And I am excited for that because I think it can be both productive for Najee Harris and for Jalen Moore.
Yeah, that's where I think look, at the passing game, I think this is a very combustible group. Like, everybody involved. Arthur Smith, the quarterbacks, George Pickens, like the rest, very combustible group. I mean, Pat Freiermuth is catching 80 balls for 750 this year.
I'm excited for Pat Freiermuth a little bit more maybe than others on this team.
I kind of think I am too. But the excitement is the run game. Like, they're going to be able to do a lot of, like, we've talked most in this podcast about the passing game and dropbacks, stuff like that. But what they're going to be able to open up in the run game, I think, is going to matter a lot for Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. So 100%. Kind of a wet blanket to end the podcast on, Josh. But otherwise, incredible stuff. This was great. I really appreciate you doing it. I think we covered a lot of ground between some of the best teams in the league and maybe some teams that could, maybe get their act together offensively if they use some motion and other smart concepts.